Radhe Radhe. During the last 4 discourses on the topics of do we need God, why worship God, what is true happiness, and what is the nature of happiness, I explained the science of the pursuit of pleasure. That every individual soul in this world bound by Maya is seeking one thing alone through their every endeavor in life, and that is happiness. Now, this happiness that we as individuals desire is not limited. This is what we experience in life, is that it is only limited. It comes and it goes. It has a beginning, it has an end. But that experience is contrary to our very nature. Our nature is to aspire for and to desire and to seek that which is everlasting, ever increasing, and infinite. And whatever is infinite, it is not an attribute of this world. It is an attribute of the divine phenomena. So that everlasting happiness is synonymous with God. In other words, God is that everlasting happiness that we have eternally sought. And as individuals, being a part and parcel of God, we naturally seek that level of happiness in life. Now, with this understanding that we have eternally sought God directly or indirectly through our every action in our life, with this understanding, we are naturally left with a question. It sparks our curiosity. We wonder then, if God is who we have been seeking since eternity, how do we find God? Well, the obvious answer is knowledge. Knowledge. Just as with anything in this world, we first acquire knowledge before we experience whatever that object is that is associated with that specific knowledge. So we acquire knowledge. That is most important. Now, on the topic of knowledge, as a first step, I'd like to take up or address rather a topic, and that is spiritual knowledge. When we have questions like who is God and why am I here, we have to find an authoritative and dependable source to answer them. These subjects are beyond our intellect, and so on our own we can only speculate. Mercifully, God, who is the embodiment of mercifulness, God makes this knowledge available to us. And why wouldn't He? He has manifested this world solely for the purpose of giving us the chance to attain Him. Just as there is milk in the mother's breast before the birth of her child, similarly, before human civilization begins on earth, God produces knowledge in the form of the Vedas. We are not left to wander aimlessly, but can acquire correct spiritual knowledge from the Vedas and proceed on the path to divine attainment. We can proceed on the path of God realization. Now, the Vedas is not a book written by someone or a collection of speculations by different scholars. It is not like that. That is not the Vedas. The Vedas are Paurusheya, meaning they are produced by God, and Apaurusheya, not made by anyone. They're not made by any person or individual. Like God and we individuals, Just like God and ourselves as individuals, the Vedas are eternal. It is divine knowledge that resides eternally within God. In fact, the Vedas are considered to be God Himself. Vedo Narayanah Sakshat. Vedo Narayanah Sakshat. There are other divine scriptures produced by God-realized personalities and by various descensions of God. These are based on the philosophy of the Vedas and perfectly coordinate with it. These scriptures further elucidate, complement, and clarify the teachings of the Vedas, and they include the Darshan Shastras, the Bhagavad Gita, the Puranas, including the Bhagavatam, the Mahabharata, and the Ramayana. The priceless treasure of knowledge is the guiding light for all those who wish to accomplish the goal of their very existence in this world. There's one thing that you must keep in mind, however, that the Vedas or any scriptures are not, let me repeat, they are not for self-study, which is a very common practice the world over. These are divine scriptures that can only be understood by a divine mind, and that too only with God's grace. Even the creator of this planetary system, of this Brahmand, Brahma, was unable to understand the meaning of the Vedas initially. Only when he surrendered to Sri Krishna and received his grace did the meaning become apparent to him. If you hope to correctly understand this vast philosophy, then you need the guidance of a God-realized personality. And as I mentioned earlier, just as we learn everything, we acquire knowledge first of anything in this world, but that knowledge comes through a specific source. So God is the source, or God is the source of divine knowledge. Just as we learn anything in this world, there is somebody that teaches us or bestows that knowledge upon us. In the same way, in the spiritual realm, we also need someone to bestow that knowledge upon us. Just like a professor in a college, a teacher in a school, even in kindergarten, a teacher there. So we acquire knowledge from a source. Somebody bestows it upon us. So in the spiritual realm, for that matter, this knowledge comes from a God-realized saint. We need the guidance of a God-realized saint. Guru binu hoi ki gyan. In the Ramayana, it says that without the guidance of a genuine God-realized personality, we cannot expect to acquire authentic knowledge. And beyond that, any attempt otherwise will just increase our confusion. Shruti Puran bahu kahe upai, chhute na adhika adhika arujhai. Ramcharitamanas. If we attempt to understand the knowledge that is within the scriptures on the strength of our own intellect, what will happen is that we will become further entangled. We will become further confused. And therefore, a great saint, as Tulsidas ji says, It is only with the help of a qualified teacher that true knowledge can be gained. So this is what I wanted to address in today's lecture, was what is spiritual knowledge and what is the source of that spiritual knowledge. Now, how do we acquire that? Where does that come from? These are some of the topics that I will be addressing in my upcoming lectures. I will leave you with these thoughts. श्रीमद् सद्गुरु सरकार की जय, श्रीमद् युगल सरकार की जय। जय जय श्री राधे, जय जय श्री राधे, जय जय श्री राधे।